Today we'll be going over the attractions that are available at the parks. I'll be sharing some insights on the rides so that you and your party can take full advantage of your different options when you're in Walt Disney World. Hello and welcome to the Let's Go to Disney podcast. I'm your host Oliver. Today is Sunday, October 29th, and you're listening to episode 8, Guide to Attractions in Walt Disney World, Part 1. Before we get into today's main topic, here's what's going on in the parks right now. In Disney Cruise Line news, Disney announced that the first ever Haunted Mansion themed lounge, named the Haunted Mansion Parlor, will grace Disney's newest ship, the Disney's Treasure, when it sets sail in late 2024. There will be specialty craft cocktails and exclusive onboard merchandise. The lounge will have Haunted Mansion theming with a nautical twist, but don't worry, that classic wallpaper will be there. Disney Parks blog shared concept art and the space looks so immersive. I can't wait to see more details on that. Disney Parks blog also announced the return of after-hours events at Walt Disney World. This will begin on select nights January 10th through April 10th at Hollywood Studios, January 11th through April 8th at Magic Kingdom, and February 2nd through April 4th at Epcot. These are separately ticketed events that will grant you an extra 3 hours in the parks after closing, where you'll be able to enjoy the attractions with lower waits and have access to unlimited complimentary snacks. You'll have access to the parks starting at 7 p.m. Guests with Walt Disney World Resort reservations will be able to book starting November 7th and all other guests beginning on November 14th. Tickets for Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom will range from $155 to $175, and Epcot will be $149 to $159. There will be a discounted price for DVC members and annual pass holders. Disney has announced dates for the Epcot's Festival of the Arts, which will kick off on January 12th and run until February 19th in 2024. This will see the return of the Disney on Broadway concert series and dining packages, among other entertainment options. There will also be the exclusive snacks that will be beautifully presented as always. The first Christmas decorations have been spotted in Walt Disney World. Lanterns and lights were spotted at Animal Kingdom, and Hollywood Studios put up the stars that line Sunset Boulevard. With Halloween next week, Christmas will come on to scene in a big way next Wednesday, November 1st. Disney also revealed the opening date for Pixar Place Hotel over at Disneyland Resort. The hotel will officially transform from Paradise Pier to Pixar Place on January 30th, 2024. Disney Parks blog shared guest room photos, and of course, they look great. Still at Disneyland, Disney also announced that the Adventureland Treehouse, inspired by Walt Disney's Swiss Family Robinson, will officially open on November 10th. The photos look great, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. Having said that, let's get into today's main topic. Today we'll be covering the different attractions that are available in Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. I was intending to cover the 4 parks, but quickly realized that would be over an hour long, so I'll cover those 2 parks today, and I'll get to Hollywood Studios and Epcot in part 2. With that said, we'll cover what to expect without giving too many spoilers so that you can have an idea of which attractions you and your party should prioritize when you're on property. We'll go over height requirements, the different ride systems, and which ones could be problematic for littles or people who get motion sickness. We'll also explain what rider swap is and how to put it into practice for your party. We'll also cover accommodations for the different rides for those with mobility issues or things that could impact your ability to ride different attractions. So let's kick things off at Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom is the flagship park at Walt Disney World, and usually where everyone's mind goes to when you mention Disney World. There's something about walking down Main Street with Cinderella Castle at the end that is just beyond words. It really is magical. In terms of attractions in this park, there's not many thrill rides, and most rides do not have a height requirement. And the ones that do are pretty accessible, except if you have really little ones. So putting Magic Kingdom aside for a quick second, if your kids are 48 inches tall or 4 feet tall, they will be able to ride every ride in all of Disney World. The only attraction with a higher height requirement than 48 inches is Tomorrowland Speedway at 54 inches, but this is only to drive without supervision. To ride or drive with supervision, the height requirement is only 32 inches. So for Magic Kingdom, Tron Lightcycle Run has a height requirement of 48 inches, Space Mountain at 44 inches, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at 40 inches, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at 38 inches, Barnstormer at 35 inches, and finally, Tomorrowland Speedway, 32 inches. This is about a quarter of the rides, and as your littles get taller, it opens up more rides. At 40 inches, they can ride all but 2 rides at Magic Kingdom. All other rides and attractions at Magic Kingdom do not have a height requirement. Now, I think this is a good time to quickly touch on Rider Swap. So Rider Swap is available at attractions across Disney World that have a height requirement, and it's intended to be used in the following manner. We'll use a party of 4 for this example, but it works with parties of as little as 3 and works with larger parties as well. In this example, I'm using a family of 4, but know that this is not only intended for kids. If you have someone that simply doesn't want to ride or can't because of motion sickness or mobility issues or any other reason really, you can use rider swap as well. So, say you have 2 parents and 2 kids. Child 1 is 48 inches tall and child 2 is 40 inches tall. Parent 1 takes child 1 through the regular standby queue and rides Space Mountain, which child 2 is not tall enough to ride. When they exit, parent 1 and child 1 stay with child 2 so that parent 2 can ride the ride. Parent 2 will enter the lightning lane queue and not have to wait the entire standby line since parent 1 and child 1 already did that. It's a way for everyone that wants to ride the ride to be able to do so without having to wait in the standby queue twice. Now, your mileage may vary here because cast members are not obliged to do this, but by and large they do. When parent 2 enters the lightning lane queue to ride their turn, cast members will allow child 1 to go with that parent to ride a second time. Again, don't expect this, but in practice, the vast majority of the time, cast members will do this. To use rider swap, the whole party goes to the cast members at the front of the attraction before they enter the queue and say they intend to use rider swap. Cast members will scan tickets, phones, or magic bands to set up the lightning lane for the second party, and away you go. Now, of course, parent 2 and child 2 are not obligated to stay at the front of the attraction if there's a 50-minute wait or something. You can take your smaller little to ride something else while you wait, or grab a snack, or do something fun because it can obviously be disappointing for your youngest that they did not get to ride that ride. I'm not going to tell you how to parent your kids, but what I found helpful for us is to set out expectations before we left for our trips. So measure your littles, tell them how tall they are, and let them know what they will or will not be able to ride while on your trip. It can save some disappointment while you're actually in the parks. And like I said, it certainly helps to keep that child busy while the other is riding whatever ride you're using rider swap for. Now, having said that, let's talk about what attractions are in Magic Kingdom. So like I said, Magic Kingdom is the flagship park and it's very inviting even to the youngest travelers. You have the Walt Disney World Railroad. This classic attraction takes you on a train right around Magic Kingdom on one of 4 steam trains. You can use it to transport you to another section of the park or take it all the way around. The track is about 1.5 miles and takes about 20 minutes. If you're in an ECV, you're going to have to transfer to a wheelchair to ride the train. This is a must-do in my opinion. For the others, I'll break them down by land, starting with Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland Speedway takes you in your very own miniature car around the motorway. You must be 54 inches to ride unsupervised. Otherwise, if you're 32 inches or taller, you can ride with supervision. If you're in an ECV or a wheelchair, you must transfer. This attraction is a hit with the littles who love to drive cars. This is included in Genie Plus. Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin is a dark shooting gallery ride in a spinning ride vehicle with a mounted laser. This is a fun one and your score is kept so it can be fun to spark some competition. My wife and I can get quite competitive. It's fun in a silly way. Subtle flex, but I'm a galactic hero. If you don't know what that is, I'll let you figure it out on your next trip. Guests and ECVs can transfer to a wheelchair on this attraction and it is included in Genie Plus. Next, you've got the Tomorrowland Transit Authority People Mover. This relaxing ride takes you on an elevated tour of Tomorrowland. This is nice to do in the afternoon when you're feeling a little tired and you want a quick break. One of my favorites for this reason. In terms of accessibility, you must be ambulatory to experience this attraction, and it is not included in Genie Plus. Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress takes you into a rotating theater following an animatronic family through different generations of technological advancements. This is a classic attraction that Walt himself had a hand in that was originally designed for the 64-65 World's Fair. For that reason alone, I think it's worth a visit. Plus, you'll have It's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow song in your head after, which I love. You can remain in your ECV or wheelchair for this one, and it is not included in Genie Plus. Next, you have the Astro Orbiter. This takes you up an elevator to an elevated spinning ride high above Tomorrowland. You can control the height of your ride vehicle. I'm not a huge fan of this attraction, but it does give you good views of the park, so there is that. You must transfer from your wheelchair or ECV for this attraction, and it is also not included in Genie Plus. Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor is a hilarious live comedy show that is legitimately funny. Fair warning, this does have audience participation, and both my wife and I have been picked out of the crowd on different occasions, so don't think it won't happen to you. It is included in Genie Plus, and you may remain in your ECV or wheelchair for the show. Space Mountain. This is a coaster thrill ride in the dark. It's a fun one, and for that reason, it's got a 44-inch requirement. Fair warning, if you get motion sickness or don't appreciate coasters that are a little jerky, you may not enjoy this ride. I personally like it and ride it every trip, but it's definitely not for everyone, so something to keep in mind there. For accessibility, you must transfer from your ECV to a wheelchair for the queue and then into the ride vehicle. And lastly, for Tomorrowland, you've got the newest attraction at Magic Kingdom in Tron Light Cycle Run. This is a high-speed thrill coaster that will be fun even for the most hard-to-please park goers. Quick note on the ride vehicle for this one. You are in a ride vehicle shaped like a motorcycle that has you bent quite far forward. Larger guests and guests with really large calves have reported issues with the ride vehicles here. Disney does have test ride vehicles at the front of the attraction. If you're in doubt, it's a good idea to give it a try because it's not pleasant to figure that out when you're about to board. They do have accessible modified ride vehicles if needed. They're not on every train though, so you may have to wait just a touch longer, but not by much. If you're in an ECV, you transfer to a wheelchair for the queue and then to the ride vehicle. This is not included in Genie Plus, it's an individual Lightning Lane selection. Also, as of this recording, it does not operate a standby queue. Only a virtual queue that opens at 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. daily, as well as at 6 p.m. on days with extended evening hours for guests staying at deluxe resorts. Next, we're heading into Fantasyland. Quick side note here, to the right of the castle at Fairy Tale Gardens, there's a brand new Mirabelle meet and greet. This is a new setup and it's located where the Merida meet and greet used to be. Right next to that, we've got the Mad Tea Party, which is a spinning tea cups ride. This is a classic attraction and a fan favorite. It does spin, so if you've got motion sickness, keep that in mind. You do control the spin with the wheel in the middle of the ride vehicle for the most part, so ask your party to be kind. You must transfer from your ECV or wheelchair for this attraction, and it is included in Genie Plus. The Barnstormer is located in Storybook Circus in Fantasyland. It's a small coaster and a good introductory coaster for the younger kids. It has a 35-inch height requirement, and people in ECVs or wheelchairs must transfer, and it is also included in Genie Plus. We actually got stuck on this coaster on our last trip right before our Cinderella's Royal Table reservation. I'm usually pretty organized in the parks, but this had me sweating. I ran with my daughter in my arms with my wife and my son on my heels, and we made it just a few minutes late. The cast members at Cinderella's Royal Table were really gracious, and they let us in. I'm telling you guys, if you're kind and patient with the cast members, they're really great. They want you to have a magical vacation, so please, just be kind. Next, you've got Dumbo the Flying Elephant. This attraction is a spinning arm ride vehicle and it has 2 ride systems to speed things along since the load-unload is not very fast. The queue here does have a playground, which is a big hit with the kids. You must transfer from your wheelchair or ECV to ride, and it is included on Genie Plus. Back there in Storybook Circus, you've also got a meet and greet with Donald and Daisy at Pete's Silly Sideshow, as well as Casey Jr.'s Splash and Soak Station. If you don't want your kids getting wet, avoid this last one. Next, there's Under the Sea, Journey of the Little Mermaid. This Fantasyland attraction is a slow, dark ride that takes you through various scenes in a shell ride vehicle. ECVs can transfer to wheelchairs, and it is included in Genie Plus. This one is very relaxed and good for the Little Mermaid fans in your party. Also, right next to the attraction, there's an aerial meet and greet location. And a little further down, near the entrance to Be Our Guest restaurant, there's Enchanted Tales with Belle, which is an interactive meet and greet. Both of these are available on Genie Plus. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh is also a dark and slow ride, with the ride vehicle being a large honey pot, taking you through many scenes. If you're in an ECV, you can transfer to a wheelchair for this attraction, and it is on Genie Plus. There's also a Winnie the Pooh and Tigger meet and greet at the Thoughtful spot right next door. Directly across from the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, you'll find the hottest ride in Fantasyland at Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. This attraction is fun for the whole family. I would say it's a little faster and more thrilling than Barnstormer, but not as much as Slinky Dog Dash in Hollywood Studios, somewhere in between. There are some dark scenes in the middle portion of this ride that make it even more immersive. This has a 38-inch height requirement, and you must transfer from your ECV or wheelchair to the ride vehicle, which is a barrel for this one. This ride is not available on Genie Plus, and it is the second individual Lightning Lane at Magic Kingdom. Unlike Tron though, there is no virtual queue for this one. There is a standby queue that you can wait in if you don't want to purchase an individual Lightning Lane. One thing to note, this ride has consistently long wait times all day long. If you're here first thing in the morning for Rope Drop, I suggest this be your first ride. A little further down, at Fairy Tale Hall, next to the castle and across from Regal Carousel, there's 2 meet and greet locations for princesses. Right now, there's Cinderella and Tiana, as well as 2 other visiting princesses. Check the My Disney Experience app when you're in the parks to see who is at Fairy Tale Hall for meet and greets. Directly behind the castle, there's the Prince Charming Regal Carousel. This is a large carousel. There's not a whole lot to say other than that, but it's a pretty iconic thing to ride the carousel directly behind the castle. You can transfer to a wheelchair for this one, and it is not on Genie Plus, but it never has that long of a line anyways, and if there is, it's a really busy day and I suggest waiting it out and checking back later. In the same area, on the other side of the castle from Fairy Tale Hall, is Mickey's Philhar Magic Show. This animated 3D show is a good place to cool down and relax for a little while, and the show is enjoyable. It is accessible for ECV and wheelchair, and it is on Genie Plus. Right next door is home to the second busiest attraction in Fantasyland, and that's Peter Pan's Flight. This dark ride takes you on a ship soaring high above miniature scenes. It's a classic attraction, and while some people may find it slow, it's a special attraction and one of my favorites. You must be ambulatory to ride this attraction because of the load and unload area, and it is of course on Genie Plus. It'll be one of the first ones to go, so I suggest this being one of the first, if not the first, to book. Also, if you rope drop Fantasyland for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, I highly suggest this be your second stop of the morning before the lines get too long, because they will, and they'll stay consistently long throughout the day. And last but certainly not least in Fantasyland is It's a Small World. This is a boat ride that takes you through various scenes playing the classic song that will be stuck in your head for the rest of the day. As I'm recording this, I can hear the song, and I guarantee you'll be singing, humming, and whistling it for the rest of the day. This is a classic attraction that was first imagined for the 64-65 World's Fair. It's a must-do in my opinion for the nostalgia alone. If you're in an ECV, you'll have to transfer to a wheelchair for this attraction, and it is included in Genie Plus. Moving right along, we're heading to Liberty Square next. Now, this is home to another classic ride and one of my favorites across all of Disney World, and that's Haunted Mansion. The new movie aside, I've been a Haunted Mansion fan for a long time. Grim Grinning Ghosts is a classic tune, and the folklore around this ride and the elements, illusions, and tricks inside are so original. The Disneyland Hatbox Ghost is coming to the Haunted Mansion in late November, and we will be there at that time, and I can't wait to see the new resident move in. I'll make sure to report back with those news. This attraction requires you to transfer from your wheelchair or ECV to the ride vehicle, and it is included on Genie Plus. Now, the obvious question parents may have here is it too scary for my kids? The short answer is no. It's lighthearted enough that most kids should do just fine, and the more sinister implications are subtle enough that littles won't pick up on them. The long answer is, you know your kids best and what they can handle, so use your best judgment. Without swaying you too far one way or another, it was designed with the whole family in mind. Just along the water is the Liberty Square Riverboat. Here you'll board the Liberty Bell and take a scenic route giving you good views of Magic Kingdom. This is a nice slow cruise and a good break during a busy Magic Kingdom day in the middle of a busy Walt Disney World vacation. It is accessible for wheelchairs and ECVs, and it is not on Genie Plus. Next up, there's the Hall of Presidents, featuring all past and present serving President of the United States in animatronic form. This is also a classic attraction that expanded on the Abraham Lincoln animatronic that was a breakthrough at the time when it was first unveiled to the world at the 64-65 World's Fair. Again, this is part of Walt's legacy, and it is a classic in my opinion. It is accessible, and it is not on Genie Plus. Next, we're riding into Frontierland. So one of the biggest rides in Magic Kingdom is currently undergoing a retheme, and that's Splash Mountain. So back in January of this year, Splash Mountain closed for its extended retheme into Tiana's Bayou Adventure. If you walk past it now, you'll see the walls and scaffolding around the attraction. You can already see some elements from the reimagined attraction, like the water tower marked Tiana's Foods. It's not scheduled to reopen until late 2024, so if you've got a trip in the next year or so, don't expect to ride this attraction. Previously, Splash Mountain was on Genie Plus. Disney has not announced what the situation will be when it returns. I suspect it may be a virtual queue for the first while, and maybe even an individual lightning lane, but that's just speculation at this point. Not far from this, you've got the wildest ride in the wilderness and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. This is a thrill coaster and it has a 40-inch height requirement. This is a really fun coaster, one of my favorites at Disney World. If you're in an ECV, you must transfer to a wheelchair and then to the ride vehicle. This attraction is also available on Genie Plus. This is one of the more popular attractions in the park right now, even more so since the Splash Mountain closure, so it's a good one to book with Genie Plus. Also, pro tip here, if you're watching the parade in Frontierland where it kicks off, once it passes and heads towards the castle, the wait time for Big Thunder will have dipped and it's a good time to jump on. Down by the water, not far from Big Thunder and Splash, is where you grab the log raft to Tom Sawyer Island. This is a good place to let the kids run around the suspension bridges and the different elements of the land, inspired by the stories of Mark Twain. You must be ambulatory to head to Tom Sawyer Island, and it is not on Genie Plus. Also in Frontierland, you've got the Country Bear Jamboree, which is an animatronic show featuring music and laughs from humorous country bears. There will be new music coming to this attraction in 2024, so stay tuned for that. It is accessible, and it is not on Genie Plus. And lastly, we're heading to Adventureland. First up is Pirates of the Caribbean. This dark boat ride is themed to pirates, and it is a classic attraction. There's a distinct smell at this attraction. If you've been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and when you go, you'll know what I mean. Something not everyone knows is that the movies were inspired by the ride and not the other way around. You must transfer from your ECV to a wheelchair and then to the ride vehicle for accessibility, and it is included in Genie Plus. The wait time here fluctuates quite a bit, but you can catch a low wait guaranteed at some point during the day, so I wouldn't wait too long for it. But don't take that to mean that you should skip it, because you definitely shouldn't. Next, you've got Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki 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 Room. Sorry, I couldn't resist. It's an animated group of humorous singing birds. And much like It's a Small World, good luck getting the music out of your head when you leave here. It's a good stop to make when in Adventureland. I recommend it. It's accessible and not on Genie+. Across the way, you've got the busiest ride in Adventureland in Jungle Cruise. This is another classic ride where the ride predates the movie by a lot. This classic boat ride features a skipper that will take you through a cruise, and you'll spot humorous scenes coupled with punny humor from your skipper. It's a roaring good time and definitely worth a visit. You can remain in your ECV or wheelchair for this attraction, and it is on Genie+. On that note, much like Peter Pan, it's a hot lightning lane, so I suggest prioritizing it if this attraction is important to you. The lines get long and they'll stay long for most of the day. The Magic Carpets of Aladdin is located not far from here as well. This ride is similar to Dumbo the Flying Elephant with the spinning arms. It's not much to write home about, but your littles will probably enjoy it. You must transfer to a wheelchair for this one, and it is on Genie+, but never has that long of a wait. Next door, the characters from Aladdin will sometimes be available for meet and greets. The Swiss Family Treehouse is also right next door and is also a good place for kids to burn off some energy if their little legs aren't tired enough already. Aside from that, there is Mickey's Magical Friendship Fair that takes place multiple times throughout the day in front of Cinderella Castle. The Adventure Friends Cavalcade comes through once or more depending on the day. The Festival of Fantasy Parade also comes through at least once, again depending on the day. Check the My Disney Experience app when you're going to be in the parks for exact show times, as these are subject to change. And there's a nightly Happily Ever After fireworks show, which I mean, did you really go to Disney if you didn't watch the fireworks over Cinderella Castle? So, I know that's a lot. Magic Kingdom has by far the most rides, experiences, and shows. Next, let's talk about Animal Kingdom. In terms of size, it's actually massive when you factor in the land that's dedicated to the animals at this park. In terms of the amount of attractions that are available, Animal Kingdom doesn't really come close to Magic Kingdom. But I don't really like to compare the parks and pit them against each other. Animal Kingdom is a great park for completely different reasons. While Magic Kingdom is the flagship park with a castle and the huge number of attractions, Animal Kingdom has a much more relaxed feel. With all the trees and foliage in and around the park, it truly feels like an oasis. But make no mistake, there are some great attractions in this park. They also have a couple of really stellar shows. Honestly, I love all the parks for different reasons, and in my opinion, if you're doing back-to-back park days, putting Animal Kingdom after Magic Kingdom Day is kind of the perfect recipe because your day will be a lot more low-key at Animal Kingdom. So, starting at the front of the park in the Oasis area, you've got a few animal viewing locations where you can see migratory birds, anteaters, babirusas, wallabies, spoonbills, among others. When you keep walking deeper into the park, you'll come to Discovery Island, which is the hub of the park that is home to the Tree of Life in this park. Or the weenie, as Walt referred to it, which is a thing that catches your eye and draws you in. Around Discovery Island, there's a lot going on. You'll find the Wilderness Explorer's Hut immediately on your right when you walk in. Here, you can complete challenges in the park and earn adventure badges. This is a fun interactive activity for the littles. Around the Tree of Life and the Discovery Island trails that surround it, there will be more animal viewing locations where you'll find otters, kangaroos, flamingos, cotton-top tamarins, lemurs, vultures, among others. You'll also have the Winged Encounters, The Kingdom Takes Flight, which is a show with macaws free flying. It's really impressive and worth watching. There are scheduled showtimes throughout the day that you can find on the My Disney Experience app. It happens right in front of the Tree of Life, so if you're passing by, you can't really miss it. There's also a Moana meet and greet when it's available near Terra Treats to the left of the tree when you're facing it. On the right of the tree at Adventurer's Outpost, there's a meet and greet of favorite Disney pals, which features Mickey and Minnie in their safari outfits. This is available on Genie+. In the base of the tree, there's the It's Tough to Be a Bug show, featuring the characters from A Bug's Life. It's a cute show with screen and live action elements. Fair warning, there's fake creepy crawlies in the seating area, and it's dark in there, so there's a potential to scare the really little ones, so just a heads up there, something to be mindful of. Having said that, it's a charming little show that most should enjoy. It is on Genie+, and it is accessible. It's usually a walk-on while you wait for the current show to end, so I wouldn't prioritize it. All right, from the Discovery Island hub, let's head into Pandora, the world of Avatar, which is to the left and back in towards the front of the park when you're facing the tree. Once you see Tiffin's and Nomad Lounge, keep walking. When it comes to immersive lands, Disney nailed it with Pandora. Even if you're not a fan of Avatar or you've never seen the movies, it's so impressive and it's so well executed, it's actually staggering when you first see it. What they did with the floating mountains, just really, really impressive. From the sights, sounds, and smells, it's truly amazing. You'll find 2 attractions back in this land, and they're both really good for different reasons. The most popular attraction in this park is Avatar's Flight of Passage. This has a 44-inch height requirement. It takes you on the back of a banshee and through various scenes set in Pandora. The ride vehicle itself is kind of like a bicycle where you straddle the seat as if you were on the back of a banshee. The attraction requires you to wear glasses, and the scenes are on a large screen in front of you. It's hard to put into words, and I don't want to give everything away, but it's a phenomenal attraction. It's my wife's favorite, and it's definitely near the top of my list as well. This attraction is not on Genie Plus, and it is an individual lightning lane. The wait time is consistently high for this one throughout the day. I will say that the queue is very cool. It's very immersive in the world of Pandora, so even if you do wait in line, I don't mind it as much given the detail that was put into the queue. In terms of accessibility, you must transfer from ECV to wheelchair and then to the ride vehicle. If you get motion sickness, you could be impacted on this attraction as well, so something to keep in mind there. The other attraction in Pandora is Na'vi River Journey. This is a dark boat ride with scenes from the world of Avatar, and there's a massive Na'vi animatronic in this attraction that is so lifelike, you'd think it was straight out of the movie. It's really well executed and so impressive. This attraction can get a high wait time, and it is on Genie Plus, so it's a good use of it if you purchased it. For accessibility, you must transfer from ECV to wheelchair. Next, we're heading into the Africa area of the park. The detail that went into the lands in this park is really well done. When you look at the buildings and the overall theming, it's really impressive. Here you'll find the Kilimanjaro Safaris attraction, where you'll actually get on a large open-air truck with row seating through a guided tour across the savannah. It's about 20 minutes or so. Could be more in case of a giraffic jam. Sorry, I couldn't resist. You'll encounter lions, hippos, elephants, rhinos, giraffes, and many more. If you go earlier in the day or in the evening when it's a bit cooler, you have a better chance of seeing more animals, so something to keep in mind there. I also love this attraction. It's definitely worth it. It is on Genie Plus, and it is a good use of it. If not, I would head straight there after doing Flight of Passage and Na'vi River Journey if you're there for early entry. If you're in an ECV, you can transfer to a wheelchair for this one. You'll also find the Festival of the Lion King show in this area. This show is a Broadway-level production. The performers and acrobatics are just so impressive. The songs are awesome, and they include the crowd in the fun. This is probably my favorite live-action show in all of Walt Disney World. It's really well done, and I definitely recommend a stop here during your park day. There are multiple show times throughout the day, and it's about 25 minutes or so, but takes longer to get everyone seated and then cleared out at the end, so the shows are at least an hour apart. It is on Genie Plus for priority seating, and it is accessible. Still in Africa, there's the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail, which is a self-guided walking trail where you'll see the gorillas among other animals as you venture down the trails. This can be as fast or as slow as you like, depending how quickly you walk through. Right next door to the trail is where you can take the Wildlife Express train to Rafiki's Planet Watch. Here you'll find the affection section, which is a petting zoo with different animals that you can interact with. You will be required to wash your hands before you enter and exit the attraction. And if you're in an ECV, you'll have to transfer to a wheelchair. There's also the conservation station here, where you'll learn how Disney takes care of the animals. In this building, you'll also find the animation experience, where you will get a 25-minute class on how to draw a specific character. The character rotates, so go check it out to see which one it is when you're there. It has multiple start times throughout the day, which is listed on the My Disney Experience app, and it is on Genie Plus. Next up, we're heading into Asia. This area is also very well themed, and if you stop long enough to really look around, you can see the thought and detail that went into this area. Here you'll find Feathered Friends in Flight, which is a show that gives you a behind-the-scenes look at the free-flying birds of Animal Kingdom and how specialists care for the birds. There are several showtimes throughout the day listed on the My Disney Experience app, and it is on Genie Plus. Around the corner from the Yak and Yeti restaurant, you'll find Kali River Rapids, which is a water ride. Make no mistake, you will get wet on this ride. You may not get completely soaked, but you may get completely soaked. But you're not getting off completely dry, that's for sure, 100%. I can see where the appeal in this attraction is. It's pretty leisurely for the most part, except for the big drop where you get real wet. I don't like walking around the park soaked. I don't like having wet shoes and socks, so I tend to get a little cranky when I get off this ride. But my wife loves it, so I somehow always end up riding it regardless. In the end, I can take wet shoes in the most magical place on earth. This ride has a 38-inch height requirement. It is on Genie Plus, and in terms of accessibility, you must transfer from your wheelchair or ECV to ride. Behind Kali River Rapids, there's another animal viewing area where you can see some gibbons, which is not far from the entrance to the Maharaja Jungle Trek. Much like the Gorilla Falls Trail, this is a self-guided walking trail where you'll encounter tigers, a Komodo dragon, bats, and Asian birds. And moving along in Asia, you'll find the Expedition Everest Legend of the Forbidden Mountain attraction. This coaster has a 44-inch requirement, and it's quite a thrilling ride. You'll encounter a Yeti and be launched backwards on this attraction. It's one of the best coasters in Walt Disney World. My son rode it for the first time on our last trip, and he absolutely loved it. On quieter park days, you can pretty much ride this on a loop, but it can get longer waits mid-morning on busier days. It is on Genie Plus, and you must transfer from your ECV or wheelchair to the ride vehicle to ride. Next up, if you walk away from Asia across the bridge, you'll come into Dinoland USA. Quick note on Dinoland, at the D23 event, they teased a potential overhaul of this land with potential Zootopia and Kanto or Indiana Jones theming. There's no timeline on if and when this will happen, but it's exciting to think about future possibilities. In this area, you'll find the Finding Nemo, the Big Blue and Beyond stage show. This is a live-action stage show featuring actors and singers and other performers set in the world of Finding Nemo. It's a cute show that the whole family can enjoy, and it's about 25 minutes long. It is on GD+, and it is accessible. You'll also find the Boneyard here, which is a massive play structure where the littles can go and burn off some energy. There's also the Triceratops Spin over in that area, which is a spinning arm attraction, much like Dumbo and Aladdin at Magic Kingdom. And last but certainly not least, there's the dinosaur attraction. This ride has a 40-inch height requirement. It takes you back in time to when dinosaurs roamed the earth and puts you on a mission to save a dinosaur from extinction, but there's twists and turns along the way. I'll leave it at that. This ride is in the dark and has some scary moments, especially for littles. I've seen kids completely break down on this attraction, so use your best judgment here. You know your kids best. The ride is quite rough in that sense, and you're bounced around quite a bit. The ride system is very similar to the Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland for reference. It is on Genie Plus, and it requires you to transfer from your ECV or your wheelchair. I'm not a huge fan of this one, I'll be honest. I know some people love it and that's cool. I can see the appeal, but it just doesn't quite do it for me. Having said all that, as you can see, there's a lot to see and do in the parks, and like I said at the start, this is just for Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. Hopefully this gives you a better sense of what attractions are available in the parks and will help you prioritize which attractions, shows, meet and greets will be important for you and your family when you visit. Next week, we'll go over Epcot and Hollywood Studios, and there's a lot going on at these two parks as well. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk Disney attractions. To make sure you don't miss any future episodes, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. I would also love it if you could take a moment to rate and review the show. This helps us reach more listeners, and I love the feedback. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for much more magical content. The link tree in the show notes will take you to all our socials. Have a great day, and we'll see you real soon.